I want you to think about what you're like when you're completely alone. Not performing for anyone, not monitoring how you're coming across, not mentally rehearsing what you're about to say, or replaying what you just said. Just you, by yourself. Now think about what you're like when you're at work, or at a family dinner, or meeting new people. For a lot of neurodivergent people, there's a gap between those two versions. Sometimes it's a small gap, sometimes it's a canyon. That gap has a name. It's called masking. And today, we're talking about what it actually is, where it comes from, what it does to you over time, and what it looks like to start closing that gap safely. Masking, sometimes called camouflaging, is the conscious or unconscious process of suppressing or hiding neurodivergent traits in order to appear neurotypical. It looks different for everyone. For an autistic person, it might mean forcing eye contact, even though it's painful, scripting conversations in advance, mirroring the body language and speech patterns of people around them, suppressing stimming in public, or performing interest in topics they don't actually care about. For someone with ADHD, it might mean working twice as hard as everyone else just to appear on top of things, rehearsing how to seem calm and focused in meetings, over-explaining themselves to preempt criticism, or hiding how many systems and workarounds they need just to function. With someone with OCD, it might mean performing rituals privately so no one notices, hiding compulsions, pretending thoughts aren't happening, or constantly reassurance seeking in ways that look like normal conversation. The common thread is effort, enormous, invisible, constant effort, just to appear like everyone else. Nobody teaches you to mask. It happens through a process of learning what gets you accepted and what gets you rejected. Every time you stimmed as a kid, someone told you to stop. You learned, that part of me isn't okay here. Every time you said exactly what you were thinking and the room got awkward, you learned, filter that. Every time you struggled and someone called you lazy or dramatic or difficult, you learned to hide the struggling. It developed because it worked. It kept you safer. It got you through school, through friendships, through job interviews. It helped you pass. And I want to be really clear about something. There is nothing wrong with you for masking. You were responding rationally to an environment that penalized you for being yourself. You did what you had to do. Because masking is expensive, and the bill comes due. For me, it looked like being the funny person in the room. It looked like being the friendly, kind person. And for a long time, I thought that was just being an adult, being professional, being functional. I didn't know there was another option. Let's talk about what masking actually costs you, because this is the part that doesn't get said enough. The most immediate cost is energy. Masking is cognitively exhausting in a way that's really hard to explain to someone who doesn't do it. It's like running a background program constantly that monitors your behavior, adjusts it in real time, and flags anything that might be too much or too weird. That program runs on the same fuel as everything else you're trying to do. So by the end of a workday, or a social event, or a family gathering, you're depleted in a way that feels disproportionate to what actually happened. This is called the masking hangover, and it's real. The second cost is identity. When you mask long enough, you can lose track of who you actually are underneath the performance. You stop knowing what you genuinely enjoy versus what you've learned to perform enjoying. You lose access to your own preferences, your own reactions, your own instincts, because they've been suppressed for so long. The third cost is health. Research, particularly in autistic women, links chronic masking to significantly higher rates of anxiety, depression, burnout, and suicidal ideation. If you're struggling, please reach out to a mental health professional or the crisis line. This is not a small thing. Long-term masking is a health risk. And the fourth cost is connection. People are connected to the performance, not you. Which means even when you're surrounded by people who like you, you can feel profoundly alone because the you they like isn't fully real. And I know some of you are hearing this and recognizing yourself in every single one of those costs. That's okay. That recognition is actually the first step. So what do you do with all of this? But I want to be honest with you about what unmasking actually involves, because the way it gets talked about online can make it sound like a switch you flip, and it isn't. First, unmasking is not all or nothing. You're not choosing between performing constantly and being completely unfiltered in every situation. It's a spectrum. The goal is to find more spaces where you can be more yourself, not blow up every professional and social context in your life. Second, unmasking isn't always safe, and that's not a personal failure. If you're in a workplace that would penalize you for stimming, or a family that doesn't accept your diagnosis, or a culture that has specific expectations around behavior, the calculus of when and how to unmask is real and complicated. You get to make those decisions for yourself. Third, unmasking takes time. If you've been masked since childhood, you may genuinely not know what your unmasked self looks like. Discovering that is a process, not an event. It often involves therapy, community, and a lot of patient experimentation. What unmasking does look like in practice is finding at least one space where you don't have to perform. Maybe that's with a therapist, a partner, a small group of neurodivergent friends, online, even alone. Start there and slowly, carefully expand that circle as trust develops. It also looks like naming your needs, saying, I need to move around, instead of white-knuckling through the stiffness, white-knuckling through the stillness. Saying, I need a few minutes to process that, instead of faking a quick answer, instead of pushing through until you crash. Small acts of self-honesty, that's where unmasking starts. I want to take 30 seconds for parents watching, because this matters. If your child is masking at school, performing neurotypically all day, they are coming home depleted in a way that may look like a behavior problem, a meltdown, or a shutdown. It's sometimes called the Coke bottle effect. They hold it together all day, and then the lid comes off the moment they're somewhere safe. The fact that they hold it together at school is not evidence that they don't need support. It's evidence that they're working incredibly hard, and that home is their safe place to decompress. Honor that. And the most protective thing you can do for your child is to make home and your relationship with them a place where they don't have to mask, where their stimming is okay, where their needs are named and met, where they are accepted as they are. That safety is not a luxury. It's neurological medicine. Masking kept a lot of us safe for a long time. It was clever and adaptive, and it got us through. There's no shame in it. But you deserve to exist without performing. You deserve relationships where the real you is the one that's known and liked. You deserve to not be exhausted by just being in the room. That's what we're working towards on this channel. Not a perfect unmasked life, but a more honest one. One where the gap between who you are alone and who you are in the world gets a little smaller over time. Next episode, we're talking about rejection-sensitive dysphoria. The emotional experience that a lot of ADHDers describe as the hardest part of having ADHD. If criticism hits you harder than it seems like it should, if fear of rejection shapes huge decisions in your life, that one is for you. Drop a comment if this episode resonated. See you next time.